Hi everyone, welcome to the Fire Mountain Gems and Beads Jewelry Making Studio. Today we're going to learn how to do a Cellini spiral. I'm not going to show you an actual project like this one. I'm just going to show you how to do this technique so you can take off and make whatever your little creative mind whatever comes to your little creative mind. So the Cellini spiral really is just tubular peyote, but it uses different sizes of beads to get that spiral. So it's very important. I'm using fairly large beads so you can see it most easily, from a little size 11 to a size 6, no, to an 8 to a 6. And here I have a little 4mm fire polish bead. And we'll use those to make our spiral. I'm going to start off with one of my favorite tulip needles and some wonderful Fireline thread. This is a 6-pound smoke Fireline. And I'm going to put a bead buddy on the end of that so that my beads don't come flying off the end, which happens to me once in a while. A bead stopper right there. Okay. And pick up 4 of the littlest guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 of the next size. 2 of the next size. 2 of the next size, and then we'll work down again. We're going to go down in size with 2 of those, and 2 of those, and I've already got 4 of the tiniest ones already, so I can stop right there. And that's where I'm going to start with these 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 14 beads. Take those all the way down to the end of my thread. So we're going to pass through these in the same direction to form a circle. Get through all of them. Go and pull that all the way through, forming a circle. And at this point, I can take my bead buddy off, so he's kind of in my way, and tie a knot. And I'm tying a simple little overhand knot. Then I'm going to tie another knot. This one's going to be a surgeon's knot, which is the same as an overhand knot with an extra loop. And that's a really good knot to prevent, well, they call it a surgeon's knot because that's what surgeons use to keep your stitches from coming undone. There we go. Okay, so we've got a nice little loop here. Now to start the stitch, I'm going to pass through 2 of these small blue beads. So there's my tail, my working tail. This is my tail. This is my working end. So I'm going through with my working end through 2 of the little blue beads. I shouldn't just say blue beads because they're all blue, aren't they? Except for those cream-colored ones. Go through 2 of those beads, and now I'm just going to go ahead and do a tubular peyote stitch. So I pick up a blue bead, skip one of the blue beads, and go through the next one. And the one I just added will now be laying right on top of this bead here. So they're little friends. Now in this Cellini stitch, it's really important to remember whatever bead you just passed through, that's the color you're going to pick up next. I went through a dark blue bead, so my next thing is going to be a dark blue bead. I'm going to skip a bead, skipping this bead, and going through the next one. And now that blue bead I just added, it's going to be sitting on top of this cream-colored bead. And I just went through a cream-colored bead, so that's the colored bead I'm going to add next, a cream. So I skipped that bead and I went through the blue bead, and the white one is now sitting on top of the blue bead. But the important thing is I just went through this, actually it's lavender bead. So that's the one I went through. That's the color I need to pick up. I skip a bead. In this case, I'm skipping this fire polish and going to the next fire polish. And it's going to look a little messy at first. It's going to look like it's not working at all, but it is working. Have faith. So I went through a fire polish, so I pick up a fire polish. Skip a bead, go through the next bead. Make it behave. I went through a lavender, so I pick up a lavender. Skip a bead, go to the next bead. I went through a pearl, so I need to pick up a pearl. Skip a bead and go through the next bead, which is one of these tiny little blue ones. Okay, so that completes this entire row. And we're going to do our step up move. This is where I got confused when I first started learning. So the next thing, we need to go up a level so we can start the next level. And I'm going to go through that bead right there. That's my step up. Now, I went through one of those small dark blue beads, so add a small dark blue bead. Skip this bead right here and go to the next bead. And this is when things start getting tubular. As a child of the 70s, I know tubular. So when I pull that tight, you can see that the design is starting to draw in toward itself and make more of a tube. I went through dark blue, so I pick up dark blue. Skip that spot right there, go to the next one, pull that one up tight. And at this point, when we're starting to get into this nice tubular shape, it's handy to put something inside of there to try and hold the shape while you're stitching. It can get kind of crazy sometimes to keep track of everything. So I'm going to use this paintbrush just to help me hold that tubular shape. Okay, so I went through a cream colored pearl right here, a cream colored bead right here. So I need to add a cream color, skip a bead, and go through my next up bead. You'll hear that phrase a lot too when we're talking peyote. Go through this up bead, which is lavender. Don't catch up your paintbrush in the whole works. And the tail. Okay, I went through lavender, so I pick up lavender. Go through my next up bead, which I might have to tell it that it's an up bead because maybe it forgot. So I just pushed it up there where it belongs, which happens to be the fire polish. And all the while you're doing all of this, you're trying to keep your tension as tight as you can without breaking the thread, which is pretty hard with fireline. And keep your spiral and keep your tension. And I picked up a fire polish bead. And there's my next up bead, which was sticking out sideways, but I know that's my up bead. Go through there. Avoid poking yourself. And can we see a spiral beginning to form? Just barely. Now I've gone through the lavender, so I pick up a lavender. Go through the next up bead. There we go. And you can see the spiral starting to form. I've been through a pearl, so I pick up a pearl. And the next up bead is that blue bead, that little tiny blue bead right there. Kind of an awkward position for me. Don't pick up all that. I'm around my paintbrush somehow. There we go. Okay, so I went through a blue, and it is time to do our step up. So I'm going to go through the next blue as well. You can see that. And I just went through one of those little blue guys, so I have to pick up a blue guy. And go through that up bead. Is that the right one? Right there. I want to make sure I got the right bead. Yes. Through there. And since I went through blue, oh, that's what I did wrong. I forgot to skip a bead. So I backed up a little bit. I'm going to skip this bead and go into that bead. That's the right way. It's okay. Everybody messes up. It's a key that you noticed it right away before it went deeper. And again, I went through a blue bead, dark blue, small bead. So I'll go through another one, skipping this white bead. Go to the next white bead. There we go. And you can see the spiral forming. Skip a bead, go through a bead. Pick up the lavender, skip a bead, go through a bead. Keeping your tension tight. I went through a fire polish, so I pick up a fire polish, skip a bead, go through a bead. Keep the tension tight. Pick up a lavender, skip a bead, go through a bead. I went through pearl, skip a bead, go through 2 beads because this is our step up space right here. I did it 1 step at a time last time. This time I went through both beads at once because that just speeds things up as you move along. And last bead I went through was dark blue. Skip a bead. Woo! No, I don't need that anymore anyway. Skip a bead. Get the right direction. Go through a bead. Dark blue again. Skip a bead. Go through a bead. So I'm going to whip this out a little bit faster. See if you can catch up. I hope you're picking up on this. It is simply peyote stitch. We're just changing sizes as we go around. Okay, so I think you should be able to see now how this is forming, making a nice cool little spiral. Let me show you what happens when you get a little further along. You end up with a spiral like this, and just keep going. Have faith that it's going to work. So important thing is, just remember, whatever color you went through last, that's the color you're going to pick up next. So there you have it. That is the technique, Cellini spiral. I want you to go out and take that technique and start creating your own beautiful works using this great stitch. Thanks so much for joining me. Happy beading.